Mariupol, 3 people describe how they escaped from hell. The besieged city of Mariupol in southeastern Ukraine had over 400,000 inhabitants before the war. Many are still there and making do with little food and water. Those who can are leaving, but even this is dangerous. A destroyed building in Mariupol and a few civilians. Eyewitnesses say there is hardly an intact building left in Mariupol. Since the beginning of Russia's war against Ukraine, no city has been mentioned by media outlets and politicians all over the world as much as the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Under constant fire, the port city on the Sea of Azov has become a symbol of resistance to the Russian army and of humanitarian disaster. The destruction of a hospital treating children and pregnant women and the bombing of a theater where civilians had taken shelter shocked the world. The EU said that Russia had committed a massive war crime. DW spoke to people who were able to escape the city and find safety in Ukrainian-controlled territory. Watch video 01:57. Ukraine accuses Russia of bombing children's hospital. Bodies all over the city. Mykola Osachenko, the head of Mariupol Television, left the city with his family and neighbors. They lived near the hospital that was bombed on March 9. The clinic is 500 meters, about 550 yards, away from my building. When the plane dropped the bomb, I thought that it had hit our building because the explosion was so powerful. But it was the children's hospital with a maternity ward on the 3rd floor. The day before the attack, my 60-year-old injured neighbor had been released from the very same hospital. He had ended up there because there was no space elsewhere. Russian media said that there were neither children nor women and that it was the headquarters of a battalion, but, in reality, there were many women and children. The temperature in our building was the same as outside, -6 or 7 degrees Celsius, 21 to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. We all slept in the basement in a separate room. That was the warmest place because it could be sealed off. There were mattresses and cushions on the ground. We put the children on them. They slept and spent all day there. The little ones lay down with their mothers. The grandparents slept while sitting on chairs against the wall. Those of us who are middle-aged simply slept on the stairs. 5 men carry an injured pregnant woman in Mariupol. This children's hospital was damaged by shelling on March 9. Before we left Mariupol, we gave our water supplies to those who were already in cars and to people who were staying behind. We also left them the remaining food that we had because it is impossible to get any more now. The warehouses have been destroyed and plundered, the shops too. Before we left, we were cooking food over a fire outside in front of the building, but we did not have enough dry wood. People used the window frames and building material from schools that had been bombed as firewood.
Ukraine's civilians pay heavy price as Russia's war rages. My heart is broken into 3 pieces. Natalia Koryagina, a medical assistant, left Mariupol on March 14. I made my way from the left bank of the Kalmius River in Mariupol to a building in the city center with just a backpack because there was less firing at the time. My mother, who is 79, didn't want to come with me. Neither my tears nor my warnings could make her change her mind. Just an hour after I left our building, a school and 2 nearby buildings were hit. At our neighbors, all the windows shattered but my mother's ones did not break. Later, the electricity and water were turned off, and I told my mother that I would come and get her the next day, and this time she agreed. My colleagues and their families were already staying in the building in the center because their homes were in dangerous parts of the city. There were 16 of us, including 6 children. We set up beds in the basement, with mats and air mattresses. There were frequent air raid sirens and we spent most of the day in the basement. The next day, I couldn't get to the left bank of the city. We tried for over 4 hours to call a taxi. The answer was, there is no gas, nobody is going to the left bank. I begged and offered a lot of money but to no avail. None of my acquaintances were able to help me to get my mother. Then I called her. She calmed me down. She said that she had water and food and that the war wouldn't last forever. She said that she would manage. That is the last I heard of her. A house with a white car in front. Natalia Koryagina stayed in this building before leaving Mariupol. My husband is in the army and is defending our country. The first few days, I had no contact with him. My son is in Kharkiv. My heart is broken in 3 pieces. But life goes on. As the siege tightened around our city, our electricity, water and gas were switched off. We could still get a certain amount of food at the market. The stores already closed a long time ago and were plundered since there was no electricity and they had come under fire. We had to cook our food in fires outside. Firewood was collected all over the district, which was under fire. Then our building was fired at from all sides. All the windows and the roof were destroyed. The building shook so much that we thought it would collapse. But the basement held out. The temperature was 1 to 2 degrees Celsius on the ground floor. It was 4 to 5 degrees in the basement. But the worst